What is the difference between Passé Composé and Imparfait? In what situation, in what sentences should we use one or the other? That's what we're gonna see in this video. My name is Sebastien, I'm a French teacher, and yes, I like grammar. For me, learning grammar is like learning the rule of a game. Without it, it really feels more like a lottery. Many students, they don't really like grammar, but I always encourage them. Like that, speaking the language is really speaking, like playing the game and not playing lottery. So in this video, we are going to see a little bit of conjugation, but mainly it is the difference between the two tenses. First, Passé Composé. It is formed with a subject, auxiliary verb, and past participle. There are two auxiliary verbs, avoir, être. Avoir is the main one. Être, there is a list of verbs that you just need to learn and remember. Anyway, there is a tip here. You see that these verbs, they are mostly about movement or transformation. This is not a rule, no? Because some verbs with movements, they anyway use verb auxiliaire avoir. To swim, to jump, to walk. Okay, but these are exceptions. Otherwise, movements, mostly, and transformation. So we have a few verbs, but also like that, I can add all the reflexive verbs because it is a self-transformation. If I say, for instance, that this morning I woke up at 7 and then I woke the kids up. So I use verbe auxiliaire être, je me suis réveillé à 7 heures. But then, verbe auxiliaire avoir, j'ai réveillé les enfants. Because it is just an action. Past participle now, you also need to remember the conjugation. But there is also a guideline, there is also a tip here. You know that verbs in French are divided into three groups. The first groups are the verbs ending with er. So past participle most likely will just end with e accent. Second group, the verbs ending with IR. Most likely will just end with I. And the third group, the verbs ending with RE, DRE, OIR, they most likely will finish with the letter U. There are exceptions that anyway you need to check, but already that really helps to conjugate the vast majority of verbs. And Passé Composé, this is what it is about, just an action done. Already here, there is a difference between French and English, because in English there are two different tenses, depending if the action was recently done or long ago. In French, there is only one for both situations. There is no difference if I say that tonight I have watched a movie or I watched this movie 10 years ago. There is no difference with I did, I have done. It's the same thing. J'ai fait. J'ai regardé un film. So this is already one key difference. Imperfect now. The construction, the conjugation, it is formed on present tense, the first plural pronoun nous. So you take the verb, you remove ONS, and you add these endings. It works with all verbs, with just one exception, the verb to be, être. We don't take nous sommes, we use the ground verb, être, and we take et. And it works for all verbs. So, imperfect covers more things, more situation. First, it is like a description or state. For instance, when I was a kid, quand j'étais enfant. We have a repeated action. In English, I used to go to school by bike. J'allais à l'école à vélo. And then we also have a continuous action. One day I was riding very fast and I fell on the ground. Un jour, je roulais très vite et je suis tombé. This last sentence is interesting, you see, because we can mix also passé composé, imparfait in the same sentence. Imparfait because ongoing, continuous action, I was riding. Then passé composé, I fell on the floor, je suis tombé, action done. So let's see some examples here. En Colombie, j'ai bu le meilleur café du monde. You see, it is passé composé, just I drank the best coffee. It is just an experience. En Colombie, je buvais le meilleur café du monde. Imparfait, because it is a repeated action. I used to drink the best coffee in the world. It is over now. Huh? It is in the past. Maybe because I don't live in Colombia anymore or I just stopped buying this coffee. It doesn't really matter, but that is the difference between the experience and the habits. There is another key difference. In French, something that I started in the past, but I'm still doing today, it is present tense. En Colombie, je bois le meilleur café du monde. That is a difference because in English you would rather say, I have been drinking the best coffee. So this is another difference. You see that English helps to understand, but there are some differences. There is also one important thing to understand, because I said passé composé, it is an action done. But careful with that. It doesn't mean that it is a single action. It is something that is really gone. It is over. For instance, here, dans ma vie, j'ai beaucoup voyagé, j'ai visité beaucoup de pays. In my life, I traveled a lot, I visited many countries. So you see, it is not a single action because I visited many countries. I traveled many times. The difference here is that it is a certain period of my life which is over and I know it's over. To understand here, usually I explain this way with zoom in, zoom out. What I do here is that I zoom out and I see my life. And there is a certain time in my life I traveled, but I know it's really over by now. When we zoom in a certain time period, quand j'étais étudiant, je voyageais beaucoup, je visitais beaucoup de pays. You know, anyway, this is the same story. I'm just saying that, yeah, I traveled a lot. But what I do when I zoom in, it is while I was a student. And by then, it doesn't matter when I started and when I stopped. Because when I was a student, I used to travel a lot. So it is a repeated action. So let's do together a bit of practice here. There is a text, present tense, and together we will tell the story in past tense. Paul wants, since long time, to visit Japan. The culture interests him a lot. He takes 3 weeks holiday and buys a flight ticket. The night before, he prepares his luggages, and early the next morning, he leaves to the airport. When he's in the bus, he realizes he doesn't have his passport. He cannot hop off the bus who is riding already. A little after, he can go back home, but it is too late and he's going to lose his flight. Fortunately, he realizes that the flight is not today, but for tomorrow. Paul voulait depuis longtemps visiter le Japon. La culture l'intéressait beaucoup. I use here imperfect because it is a description, it is a state that he wanted since long and the culture interested him. Il a pris 3 semaines de vacances et a acheté un billet d'avion. Passé composé because just an action done. He took 3 weeks, he bought a ticket. La veille, il a préparé ses valises et tôt le matin suivant, il est parti à l'aéroport. Again, passé composé, just a series of action done. Quand il était dans le bus, il s'est rendu compte qu'il n'avait pas son passeport. So here we have a mix, in the same sentence, imparfait, passé composé. Il était dans le bus. So that is the state of being in the bus. Il s'est rendu compte, passé composé, because this is an action done, he realized. And careful here, I use passé composé, verbe auxiliaire être, because it is a reflexive verb. Il n'avait pas son passeport, so he didn't have, and that is a description, a state. Il ne pouvait pas descendre du bus qui roulait déjà. Imperfect here for both because this is an ongoing, a continuous action, like that he could not, and the bus was riding. Un peu après, il a pu retourner à la maison, mais il était trop tard et il allait perdre son vol. Passé composé, il a pu, so he could, action done, and then it is like a description, it was too late, and here it is interesting because we have the near future tense, he is going to lose, and then past tense imparfait, he was going to lose, il allait perdre. Heureusement, il a réalisé que le vol n'était pas aujourd'hui, mais pour demain. Fortunately, he realized, this is an action done, and the flight was not today, this is a state. Okay, I hope now this explanation helps you to understand better when to use one or the other. If you like the video, you can click like and subscribe to the channel. I regularly give information about the language, grammar, conjugation, but also different aspects of the language. Not all videos are in English, the majority in French, but there are also English subtitles if you prefer. So goodbye and see you in the next video.